So the next one I have on my list here is Harmonizer by Ty Segall. And I don't know if this is intentional or not. I mean, it wasn't intentional, but this is the title track of this album as well, Harmonizer. Now, Ty Segall, I kind of put him in a similar category as King Gizzard and Lizard Wizards. You know, the garage rock, psychedelic rock kind of thing. But I think Ty is more of like a singular force. Like King Gizzard is like a 6-member band with one member that does a lot of the heavy lifting. You know, Stu McKenzie writes all the songs and does all the work for the most part. So Stu McKenzie might be the same kind of force as Ty Segall, but because he's kind of hidden behind the Gizzard umbrella, it's hard to tell. You know, whereas Ty Segall, you know, he's revolving door of musicians. He has like 7 or 8 different bands, you know, he's the leader of every band, the chief songwriter of every band. You know, he's pretty much, you know, and he releases albums at a similar pace to King Gizzard. Like I forget which year recently he did like 5 albums or 6 albums in 1 year. But the difference between him and King Gizzard is, I think when King Gizzard releases 6 albums or 5 albums in a year, they're all really good. Whereas Ty Segall, a couple of them I find unlistenable, but a couple of them are really good. So I find he doesn't have as much of a filter on him as King Gizzard does, which is probably a better thing in the long run, because, you know, famously, a lot of music I like now, I didn't like when I was younger, you know, so I might find the unlistenable Ty Segall his most brilliant work when I get older, you know. So this is the album, this was his COVID record. You know, I think all of us have COVID records. I have a COVID record or 2. And, but this is the one he made during the pandemic. So he's just by himself, and his wife makes an appearance here and there. He does bring out his Freedom Band, which is a band that got together, I think, for his album called Freedom's Goblin, which this album reminds me a lot of, which is probably why I like it so much. The last time we played Ty Segall was off of Manipulator, which this kind of in that same vein of sound is that psychedelic rock sound. So yeah, the song's called Harmonizer. I just think it sounds great. It makes my ears just like orgasm. It's a solid eargasm song.
Watch the words slip, trip, and roll down. From the sound to the tip of your tongue now. I wanna hear you touch my eardrum. I wanna hear our tongues make friction. Doesn't matter what we say, yeah. Existing freely and harmonizing, inventing notes to form a language. Accord together now, harmonizing, 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 harmonizing. I realize I've never heard before.
that made me laugh at the end there. He got me. I was all ready for the fade out, and then he did something nasty to my ears. that was funny. I really like it when people do that. I think the star, obviously there's some lovely vocals on there, but the star of that show was the snare. You know, that big sort of tin lid kind of snare, which I loved, and the sort of linearity of the melody, the sort of just picking the I suppose it would be the root note of the fifth or something as the melody was quite refreshing. Usually when you hear that, it's because there's some lack of imagination in the arrangement or in the work of the singer, you know, that they can't quite find a melody, so they just stick to the kind of the one note. But this was great because it meant that the vocal melody got out of the way of the other things that were happening. And for quite a long time it was weird because there's a lot of these big sort of fuzzy sounds in it. Yet even though it had these big fuzzy sounds, there was a lot of openness to the arrangement, which kind of struck me as a bit weird. I was kind of thinking, is there something? In fact, you must be listening you were listening to that on speakers, I think, were you?
Not intentionally, no. Why, were you hearing it back?
I was hearing an echo because during the little gaps in the arrangement, I could hear an echo coming back, and I switched down your feed and it disappeared. So I don't know what was happening, but anyway, very sort of open arrangement, and the wonderful distortion. I love distortion when it's used in that sort of colourful, creative way. It's not just a kind of tool to bludgeon you with, as many bands do to great effect. This was like an artistic, painterly effect of the distortion. I think it would probably be considered fuzz, and certainly the later sort of lead lines that came in were very fuzzy and very sort of hairy. That's the only way I can think of these sounds, is they're hairy sounds. You know, there's a lot of stuff happening on the edges of them, and it reminded me, I've always got to think back to what it reminds me of, and I hope that's valuable to people. If it's not, if it pisses you off, just leave a comment and I'll stop doing it. But I found it reminded me a little bit of the Bill Nelson stuff that he did with Bebop Deluxe. A lot of their stuff was like that, probably with more of a 70s kind of production aesthetic, if you know what I mean, which wouldn't be kind of as much in your face, a lot more reverb and things. But Bill Nelson was trying to build that sort of angular kind of guitar-y thing. He didn't do so well with it because he didn't achieve the heights that he wanted to, I think. But this reminded me of it, and that's a rabbit hole that you could go down with Bill Nelson. He's produced a huge number of albums, so it does have its antecedents. It does have things in the past, but it sounded fresh, and it sounded interesting. The lyrical work, I couldn't quite catch all of it, but it was obviously about making harmony between people, and that was quite good. And I was loving the end there. I was loving the 70s fade out, because we were talking earlier about, you know, the idea of verse, chorus, middle eight, all kind of stuff, and I was saying the music from the early 70s was mostly chorus, and they would just repeat the chorus until they'd do a fade out, and I thought, I'm going to be able to refer to that because this is the perfect example of it. And then he brings in that completely non-70s fucked up ending, which was great. You know, that the way that the snare comes back in, and I'm thinking, oh my, what are we going to get here? And then he just goes all with the snares all over the place. Yeah, it was great. I loved that. I like tracks that make me laugh because I wasn't expecting that, you know. And that's one of the great things about deep listening, is when you're surprised. Myself, I can't help laughing. It just delights me that there's still surprises left in the world of music. So that was a good one. I really enjoyed that.